Welcome. This is Share Your Story with Renoma, and I am your host, Dr. Perfecta, the pain healer. Share Your Story with Renoma features real life struggle women face with their health. It's a means to educate one lady at a time about several health challenges the women folk face, while emphasizing that they are not alone and their pain is valid, whether it is big or small. In today's episode, we will be sharing a true life story of a lady who exclaimed, Hernia or fibroid? Why am I in so much pain? Why the sleepless nights? Let's dive right into it. Hello, Anonymous.
Hi, hello.
Thank you so much for choosing to share your story with us.
It's my pleasure.
All right, so tell us about your story. When did it start and how?
Okay, it's actually about my it's not my fibroid, the detection of fibroid, and I think when I first detected it, it was sometime in year 2020,
Okay.
and maybe like mid 2020, yeah, and as at that time I didn't even know it was fibroid. Like obviously I couldn't have thought it was fibroid, right? I think I just woke up one morning and I felt like a bulge at the bottom side, my abdomen, yeah, the right side of my abdomen, and it was just one small bulge anyway. So I really didn't think anything of it. But as the months continued into the end of 2020, it was now becoming more prominent. Not really so prominent, but it was obviously now becoming bigger than what it was initially.
Okay.
And so around that 2020 was the time when I was also preparing to get married. And of course, all these getting to do some preliminary tests and all of that. Even if I didn't even really go for any preliminary tests, but I was like, so that I would know what this is. Because right from time, I've never had any serious health issue per se, challenge, yeah, that would need me to go to the hospital for stuff, maybe aside from maybe malaria and stuff like that. But when this one started, it was strange, right? It was something I wasn't used to. I didn't know what's up, so I just had to go for the test.
Okay.
And funnily enough, I went to one hospital. It was my HMO when I was working then. And in fact, what was diagnosed, or the preliminary diagnosis that was done, not an actual scan per se, yeah, it was just me having a conversation with the doctor, him examining me and all of that. He didn't even say it was fibroid. He didn't say it was even fibroid. He was just saying something about hernia. And in my head, I'm like, okay, this is the first time I'm hearing about females having hernia, right? Um, all the while I've known about hernia, and it was always related to men.
Okay.
And we went on with our story, and thank God he himself suggested that I should go for a further test, but that's at another hospital.
Okay.
And so when we went there, all of this in 2020, just because I was getting ready to get married now. And I went there with my husband now, was my boyfriend then.
Okay.
And we went with the story of, we went to this hospital, we were referred to this place, gave us the history of hernia, told doctor everything. And as at that time, it was already becoming bigger. The fibroid was already becoming bigger, but I didn't know it was fibroid, right? So all of the things he was saying, I really can't remember verbatim the things he was really saying. But as at then, it was sounding like, okay, doctor, I've heard you're saying this about hernia, this, but what is in me? Yeah, isn't something. It's not similar to. It's different.
Right.
Yeah, different from the things it was,
Stating.
stating and all of that. I think one of the things he was saying was that hernia was not something that actually probably increases in size. And I was like, so this thing it has been increasing though. And so he just said, let me even do one thing, like, okay, get on the bed, the stretcher or so, and let me just. And so when he, did his own preliminary physical examination, he just paused and he was like, this is not hernia. These were his words actually, that I can tell you categorically that 19 this is 99.9% fibroid. And I was like, fibroid? From where to where? How? Now, because growing up, I've heard of I've heard a little bit of, fibroid, whatever. And honestly, the only thing I actually heard about it was, always linked to like maybe when women have it, they end up dying. Those that did went for the surgery, like I actually knew of two cases back then.
Wow.
Yeah, one was my mom's friend. They were colleagues at work,
Wow.
and she was actually into her, I think, 40s as at then, her late 40s, or is it mid 40s? I can't remember, around that period. And so they were not working together. They were not. She wasn't working then. So my mommy sort of like just heard about it that this person died. It was because of fibroid. That she actually went, for the surgery and all of that, and
Mm.
that was what resulted to. Another one was even when I was the second one rather was when I was much younger, right? And there was this woman on my street that was always walking around, and I always wondered because she had kids that were like my age and my elder sister's age,
Mm.
and she didn't look like someone that was pregnant or planning to, because she was looking old. And so one day like that, because I grew up with my grandparents, I asked my grandma, I was like, this woman, because she was always greeting us, there were people we knew. She was someone we knew, her family were people we knew and we greeted and all. I was like, why is it that she's always looking like her tummy region is always looking bulged or something? And it was around that period I was told that there's something called fibroid, that this also happened to her. And after that period, I really can't remember the duration of time, but she ended up, she ended up, what's that thing? We heard that she actually lost her life,
Wow.
and I can't really remember if the thing was because of the death was as a result of fibroid or something, but then automatically we just felt that it was fibroid. That was that. So when I heard that I was told that it was fibroid, then those are the things that came to my head, like this thing that is always killing women up and now. And yeah, that was actually when everything started, 2020, and the race began to like, what do we do about it?
So, what did you now do about it?
So as at that time when the doctor told us, the next thing was like, the next thing you're going to do is just to remove it. And I was like, remove surgery? And like, you're talking to someone that's never had any surgical,
Proceed.
procedure done, just like that. And yeah, being a faith person, I told my husband that I would rather just want to wait. Let's not jump into making that decision yet. Let's wait. Let's pray about it. And after that decision, of course, I started doing some researches and all into things like lifestyles,
Okay.
what to eat, what not to eat, and stuff like that. And I did that for quite a while, but eventually it got to a point when,
Okay.
yeah, we were actually advised that that would just be what would have to, because it had actually now grown considerably big.
Wow.
Yeah, it had actually grown considerably big, and so we opted for the operation. That was in early this year, 2023, around March,
Okay.
thereabouts.
Right. So, I wanted to ask, what did this cost you emotionally?
Emotionally, do I want to go
You
into
sounded like
this?
emotional damage.
As in, so I told you that it was 2020, right?
Yeah.
When the whole thing started, it was growing in size. I started having some pains, and as I then I told you I was still working, so
Yeah.
I started having some pains, and pains that I was not used to. Like, I would, for a very long period of time, I would, sleep, and for the good parts of the night while my husband is sleeping, I'll be breathing in pain, and as in, it's like, what kind of something is this one? And so because of that, my job had to, it took a toll on my job
Mm.
basically. And even if I'd had, okay, so in my mind I had the mind of, okay, transitioning into maybe another organization, but I was just bidding my time, right? But the fibroid thingy, the pain, basically just the pain actually. And funnily enough, it was even when this remote thing just started, so one would want to think that I would just want to, I'm not doing, but demands were being made, made from me, basically, like concerning my job, do some things. As at then, I can remember my line manager was also planning to go on a leave, and she was already saying, "You're the next person we're going to put this thing on." So,
Okay.
like a lot of responsibilities. I was ordered to explain to him that, sir, I don't think I'll be able to do this. So that I've been having pains overnight, and on a normal day you won't tell your boss that. Now waiting concern your boss concern you get.
Mm-hmm.
But I just came out, told him that, and he didn't even see it. It was just all business to him, and it was like, of course, I'm not saying this against him. I can understand where it was
Where it's
coming
coming
from,
from.
because I really didn't even go into details
But
about
what's
this
wrong
was,
with you?
you know. I just kind of like explained that the idea is I'm not feeling too fine. I've been having strange pains, basically. That's what I call them, and in my tummy and all. I even told my line manager then and all. And when the kind of response that came from him then started making me to decide quickly that I'm going to get off this job. Like I couldn't. My mental state then wasn't,
Able to accommodate
exactly, wasn't
all
able
of
to
that.
accommodate that, the responsibilities,
Mm.
the feelings I thought I was, the kind of feelings as a result of what what how I felt that I was being treated. Not as if I was treated that bad, so to speak, at my workplace. So, but then when you're hurting, different things will just mean different things to
To
you.
you, right?
And so emotionally, in that regard, it
Yeah.
was it really took a toll on me.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, any idea how much this cost you financially?
Okay. Well, apart from the surgical operation, so I told you, I mentioned that um I mentioned doing some researches and everything, and so one of the things I dabbled into was the agbo. I spent on that too,
Okay.
and at a point, I kind of like used the stuff almost to a but considerable amount, but I didn't finish it, and so that means the money I didn't use up the whole money then.
Okay.
Talking about the surgical operation itself, it was pretty much expensive. But what I want to say was that, but for the HMO stuff my husband's place of work had in place, I think that was what made me not really feel it. So imagine if that was not there. So it was a case of us now trying to go around and please will help us and all.
Like, so with
But
the
really,
HMO, like how much did you spend?
like close to 500 and something.
I think that's more than half a million.
Yeah, more
Right.
than half a million.
Okay.
And that's actually when we had the operation. Then there was a time when I needed to go back again because after the stitches and all, I don't know what happened. The thing, a part of it got busted, and so we had to go back. New set of bills being paid to stay in the hospital. I wasn't coming from home to the hospital. I had to stay back there, and also that was another expenses on its own.
Mm.
Yeah,
Right. So the essence of this is to make people understand that this is not just something like it's something relatively cheap or relatively affordable for the average
yeah,
person,
yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah.
So I was gonna ask if you had any advice to give people listening to this, both the male or the female gender, what would it be?
That would be um knowing. I think two things: knowing, um having an idea of your health history.
Mm.
Have periodic checks.
Mm.
So when I say your health history, um while I was still making up my mind for about the surgery, I said I conducted some researches online and stuff like, and I of course asked questions, and so I realized that the reason why this fibroid actually came, it didn't just come suddenly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't just come suddenly. It was as a result of certain things while growing up, right? Like I noticed that my menstrual flow, as I then I didn't think anything of
Was
it.
wrong, right?
Yeah, it was just so irregular, heavy. And then because my parents, my mom, my sister before me, nobody, even my sister did not even have menstrual, wherever was just on point. Our flow wasn't, as far as I knew back then, wasn't, and everyone and when you talk about menstrual pains, she didn't used to
Experience
experience
it.
such, but I was the one going through that menstrual pains. I had to use drugs, ibuprofen, stuff like that. um Not to even talk about the number of parts. At a point I would join two parts together.
Wow.
It was that heavy.
But you never
And
actually like paid attention to what
yeah,
exactly was going
exactly, I
on.
didn't pay attention to what was going on. So I would say that for such things, when anybody listening to this, like if what you're probably, if you're going through something like this, just nip it at the bud very early enough, when you notice there's an irregular pattern concerning your health, maybe something that normally would not happen to you or you
Mm.
normally don't have, it's strange. Even if you're just, it's something you're just starting, like your menstrual cycle, but something inside of you is telling you that
This
it's
is
kind of off.
mm,
So just seek the advice of, or seek the assistance of medical practitioners. And apart from that, just ensure that um, for both men and women, having periodic checks, your health, periodic health checks is very, very, very important, because a whole lot is going on inside of us that we don't
right.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so is there any
Well,
way Renema Holistic Health was of help for you?
yeah, so part of the people I had to speak to before going for the surgery was Dr. Perfecta, and she made me realize a lot of things. So I think one of the things she made me to realize was, as at the time when I was going for scans to like check and all, I really didn't understand the jargons that was actually being, So I had to present, I think one of the tests that I did, the most recent one, when I contacted her then, and she explained to me, and it was one. I think my one of our decision was influenced by, you know, what she told us with respect to the advice and all, right. Yeah, with respect to the advice, and I think it was really, really on time. It was spot on, basically. Yeah, and apart from that, also advising with respect to, what to eat, what not to eat, and knowing what's good for your body. The fact that you see another person consuming this doesn't mean that you also should just
Right.
consume. Know yourself, know what to take, know what not to take, know what to increase on, basically that. So it really, really came in handy and helpful. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for choosing to share your story with us. So let me just chip this in. I'd say that you're strong. I mean, like, because it's not easy for one to go through all of that, take on mental toll, physical, financial, and
Yeah.
everything. And I mean, you're still here standing and you're ready to go again and just hit everything.
Yeah.
So for the records, I think I should say it out loud that you're really strong.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank
choosing to share
you.
your story with us.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Good news. I had you in mind when I wrote Flow Freely, Practical Steps to Understanding Your Body and Having a Painless Period. And it's just released. You can get your copy at www.renomaholistichealth.com/flow freely or on our social media handles at Renoma Holistic Health. Disclaimer. This is based on someone's true life story, and the instances mentioned might not necessarily apply to you. Seek to find out your specific health situation and solution from your healthcare provider or any other certified healthcare provider. If you'd love to share your story with Renoma, visit www.renomaholistichealth.com/SYS form and follow us on all our social media platforms at Renoma Holistic Health. Till I come your way again, remember, your body is not a storehouse for pain. Don't get used to it. Don't nurse the pain. It's not your baby.